A social media election allowed for the most specific campaign targeting we have ever seen, from Amelia Hamer showing the need for a zebra crossing by running across a busy street to Dan Tehan trying to get Australia back on track.
$150 million to upgrade the Portland to Maroona rail line. Choo-choo!
Choo-choo! He just finished tying a maiden to the track. Choo-choo! Christopher, are all elections local now?
They always have been, of course. What's different in this election, which I think is fascinating, is that most people will not have seen the majority of advertising in this election, because you can now advertise just within a postcode. So in Peter Dutton's electorate of Dixon, for example, Labor was running ads about how he wanted to move to Sydney and live in Kirribilli House, which only went to the people of Dixon. So it's not just that the issues are local, like, you know, I once did an Australia Post letterbox, which I saved, which was pretty small as an issue, and I used that for my calendar pick because I knew people would think if he cares about saving a letterbox, then he might have delivered $50 billion of submarines to South Australia, but that's more important to me because I can relate to it, right? So I think what's changed in this election is that the advertising for candidates is much more local, and they can do negative ads for local.
It's very interesting to have a look at Meta, Facebook spend. So the ALP spent 2.5 times what Liberals spent on Facebook. But maybe more interestingly, like it's 5 million versus 2 million. What's maybe more interesting is the amount of executions. There are 4,500 ALP executions on Meta, on Facebook, which of course can only mean they're doing a hyper-local campaigns.
Now, when you say executions, you don't mean they were killing Liberal voters?
OK, so if you're in charge of the next campaign, next election campaign, would you have the guts? Would you have the guts to just spend locally? Yeah, where, you know what, I'm going to ignore, so the 20 million that I spent on TV and YouTube, or maybe YouTube because I can geolocate the YouTube, but do I really need all that big picture advertising, which cost me an absolute fortune? The media is always going to follow the election campaign, so you're going to get the news anyway. But from an ad spend point of view, why would you not just do everything in a hyper-local sense?
Russell, I think what you outlined is basically the whole strategy of independents across the country, and part of why they have been so successful. More people voted independent this election than at any time in our history. But I think you need to be able to do both. You need to be able to sell a big vision and also talk about the potholes or the lack of a zebra crossing, because what that does is show you're deeply connected to your community. You're part of your community. You know what the issues are. And the hyper-local targeting is deeply effective. I saw that on Meta, where it was the same ad about NBN that Labor ran, just changing the name of the suburb and running that in every single suburb. And that makes people feel seen, heard, and really genuinely represented by the person.
I mean, potholes was the big issue for me. It is the hole I keep my pot in. But